Story 1. The Office Exchange. Lauren Mitchell had worked at Hartwell & Associates, a mid-sized insurance company in Chicago, for 7 years. Every December, the company held a secret Santa exchange. Nothing fancy, just a $20 limit and the understanding that gifts should be appropriate for the workplace. Lauren had participated every year without incident. She'd given coffee mugs, desk calendars, nice pens, the usual safe office gifts. She'd received similar items in return. December 2017 started normally enough. On December 1st, the office manager, Patricia, sent around the email with Secret Santa assignments. Lauren checked hers. She'd be buying for Derek Paulson from accounting, someone she knew only in passing. Easy enough. She ordered a desktop organizer from Amazon and had it gift-wrapped. The first Secret Santa gift appeared on Lauren's desk on December 11th, a Monday morning. It was wrapped in plain brown paper with no card, no indication of who it was from. That was the point of Secret Santa, after all. The anonymity was part of the fun. Lauren opened it at her desk. Inside was a framed photograph. The frame itself was nice, simple black wood, appropriate for an office. But the photograph made Lauren's stomach turn cold. It was a picture of her. Specifically, it was a picture of Lauren sleeping in her own bed, in her own apartment. The photo had been taken from inside her bedroom, probably from the doorway based on the angle. She was clearly asleep, wearing her usual pajamas, her face visible in the dim light that came through her bedroom window from the streetlight outside. Lauren's hands shook as she held the frame. Someone had been in her apartment. Someone had stood in her bedroom doorway and photographed her while she slept. And now that same someone was giving her the photo as a Secret Santa gift, turning a violation into a twisted present. She immediately went to Patricia's office. "Someone broke into my apartment and took this photo," Lauren said, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "This isn't a Secret Santa gift. This is stalking. This is a crime." Patricia examined the photo, her face going pale. "Oh my God, Lauren, you need to call the police right now, and we need to find out who your Secret Santa is." But that was the problem with Secret Santa. The assignments were supposed to remain anonymous until the final reveal on December 22nd. Patricia checked her list, but she'd assigned names randomly using an online generator. "Your Secret Santa is..." Patricia's face went even paler. "It's marked as anonymous. That's not right. Everyone should have a name assigned." Lauren called the police from Patricia's office. 2 officers arrived within 40 minutes and took her statement. They examined the photograph, asked questions about her building's security, about who had keys to her apartment, about whether she'd noticed anything unusual recently. "Do you have any security cameras in your apartment?" one officer asked. "No, I never thought I needed them. It's a secure building. You need a key card to get in. But once someone's in the building, they could access individual apartments if the locks aren't secure. Have you had any maintenance work done recently? Any service calls?" Lauren thought back. "The building manager sent someone to check my heater about 2 weeks ago. November 28th, I think. I wasn't home. I gave permission for the maintenance guy to use the master key." The officers exchanged glances. "We'll need to talk to your building manager, get information about that maintenance worker. In the meantime, we strongly recommend you install a security camera and consider staying somewhere else until we figure out who took this photo." Lauren left work early that day and went straight to an electronics store, buying 2 security cameras that she could monitor from her phone. She installed one in her living room pointing at the front door and one in her bedroom. Then she called her sister Emma, who lived in the suburbs. "Can I stay with you for a few days? Something happened at work and I don't feel safe in my apartment." Emma agreed immediately and Lauren packed a bag. But she kept the cameras running, checking the feed obsessively from her phone, hoping to catch whoever had been in her apartment. On December 13th, Another Secret Santa gift appeared on Lauren's desk. This one was wrapped in the same plain brown paper. Lauren didn't want to open it. She called Patricia first, and they opened it together in the conference room with the door closed. Inside was a pillowcase. Lauren recognized it immediately. It was from her bed. The same pillowcase she'd been sleeping on in the photograph. It had been removed from her apartment, washed and ironed, and wrapped as a gift. "They were in my apartment again," Lauren whispered. "Even after I installed the cameras, how is that possible?" She checked her phone, pulling up the security camera feeds. She scrolled through the footage from the past 2 days. Nothing. No one had entered her apartment. The doors hadn't opened. The cameras showed her empty apartment, undisturbed exactly as she'd left it. But the pillowcase was real. It was sitting on the table in front of her, still smelling faintly of her lavender laundry detergent. Someone had taken it from her bed. Patricia's hands were shaking now, too. "We need to cancel the Secret Santa exchange. This is beyond inappropriate. This is criminal." She sent an email to the entire office, explaining that due to unforeseen circumstances, the Secret Santa exchange was canceled effective immediately. Anyone who'd already purchased gifts could return them or keep them. There would be no final exchange party on December 22nd. The office buzzed with speculation. Most people assumed it was budget cuts or some corporate policy change. But Lauren's close co-workers knew something more serious had happened. They'd seen the police at the office. They'd noticed Lauren's distress. Lauren went back to the police with the pillowcase. They took it as evidence, though they seemed as baffled as she was about how someone could have entered her apartment without appearing on camera. They checked with her building manager, who confirmed that the maintenance worker who'd serviced her heater was a regular employee, had been with the company for 12 years, had no criminal record, and had been working at a different property on the dates in question. "We're running fingerprints from the frame and the pillowcase," the detective assigned to her case said. "But I have to be honest with you, Ms. Mitchell. Whoever is doing this is being very careful. They're not leaving obvious evidence." On December 18th, Lauren was still staying with her sister, still checking her apartment cameras compulsively, still jumping at every unexpected sound. She went to work because she needed the normalcy, needed the routine, but she was exhausted from stress and lack of sleep. When she arrived at her desk that morning, there was another package. Plain brown paper. No card. Lauren didn't open it. She called the police directly, and they sent someone to collect it. They opened it at the station with Lauren present. Inside was a key, a simple brass key on a plain key ring, and a note typed on white paper. "I don't need this anymore. I know how to get in without it." The key fit Lauren's apartment door. The police verified it. Somehow her Secret Santa had obtained a copy of her key, had been using it to enter her apartment, and was now returning it because, as the note implied, they'd found another way in. "That's impossible," Lauren said. "I have the only copy of my key. I never gave it to anyone, never lost it. The building keeps a master key, but it's in a locked cabinet in the manager's office. How could someone copy my key without me knowing?" The detective had no answer. "We're going to recommend you change your locks immediately, and we're opening a full investigation into everyone at your workplace. Someone there knows about your apartment, has access to it, and is escalating their behavior." Lauren had the locks changed that day. Heavy-duty deadbolts, the best her landlord would allow. She added a third camera pointing at her bedroom window in case someone was entering that way. She was spending hundreds of dollars on security, losing sleep, afraid to be alone, all because of Secret Santa. The office investigation began on December 19th. Police interviewed everyone at Hartwell and Associates who'd participated in the Secret Santa exchange. 47 people total. They asked about alibis, about access to Lauren's address, about any unusual behavior or interest in Lauren. Everyone denied knowing anything. Everyone seemed genuinely shocked that something so disturbing was happening. The detectives found no obvious suspects, no one with a criminal history, no one who'd shown inappropriate interest in Lauren. On December 22nd, the day when the Secret Santa exchange party would have been held, Lauren found one final package on her desk. She called the police immediately, refused to touch it, waited for them to arrive and document it. They opened it carefully, treating it like potential evidence in what was now officially a stalking case. Inside was a small jewelry box. Inside the jewelry box was a lock of hair. Long brown hair. Lauren's hair. She recognized it because she'd gotten a haircut on December 9th at her usual salon. The stylist always asked if Lauren wanted to keep the trimmed hair. Some people did for sentimental reasons or to donate. Lauren always said no. But someone had kept it. Someone had been at the salon or had taken it from the salon's trash or had somehow obtained hair that had been cut from Lauren's head 2 weeks earlier. With the hair was another typed note. "I've been watching you longer than you know. This isn't about Secret Santa. This is about you finally noticing me. I've been patient. I'll continue to be patient. One day you'll understand. Merry Christmas, Lauren." The hair was sent for DNA analysis to confirm it was Lauren's. The note was analyzed for fingerprints and trace evidence. The police investigation intensified. They started looking not just at co-workers, but at the entire building where Hartwell and Associates had its offices. Maintenance staff, security guards, cleaning crew, people from other companies that shared the building. Lauren took a leave of absence from work. She couldn't go back there, couldn't sit at that desk wondering which of her co-workers was watching her, studying her, collecting pieces of her life and turning them into presents. She stayed with Emma, barely leaving the house, checking her apartment cameras dozens of times a day. Nothing ever appeared on the cameras. Her apartment remained empty, undisturbed. But Lauren knew someone had been there, had stood in her bedroom, had touched her things, had taken her pillowcase, her hair, had photographed her sleeping. The investigation stretched into January 2018, then February, with no breaks in the case. The DNA confirmed the hair was Lauren's. The fingerprints on the packages led nowhere. Whoever was doing this wore gloves. The handwriting analysis of the typed notes was useless because typed text reveals nothing about the writer. In March 2018, Lauren made the painful decision to quit her job at Hartwell and Associates and move to a different city. She couldn't live in Chicago anymore, couldn't be in the same city as whoever was stalking her. She moved to Portland, Oregon, started over with a new job, a new apartment, new routines. For 6 months, nothing happened. No strange gifts, no photographs, no evidence that anyone was watching her. Lauren started to relax, started to believe that distance had solved the problem, that whoever had been stalking her in Chicago hadn't followed her across the country. Then December 2018 arrived, and on December 11th, exactly 1 year after the first photograph, Lauren found a package outside her apartment door in Portland. Plain brown paper, no return address, no postmark. It had been hand-delivered. Inside was a photograph. Lauren sleeping in her new bed in her new apartment in a city where no one from her old life should know where she lived. The photo was dated December 10th, 2018, taken the night before, and a note: "Distance doesn't matter. I told you I'd be patient. Merry Christmas, Lauren." Lauren called the Portland police. She explained the entire history, the Chicago stalking case, the move, the year of peace. They took her statement seriously, contacted the Chicago police to coordinate, but they had the same problem. No obvious suspect, no physical evidence, no way to identify who was doing this. Lauren hasn't had a peaceful Christmas since 2017. Every December she receives something. Sometimes it's a photograph taken inside her home, no matter how many cameras she installs or locks she changes. Sometimes it's an item that's gone missing from her apartment. Once it was a recording of her phone conversations proving that somehow her phone was compromised. She's moved 4 times in the past 6 years. She's changed her name legally. She's cut off contact with almost everyone from her Chicago life, afraid that any connection might be how her stalker tracks her. But every December, the gifts continue. The police have never identified the stalker. They've investigated hundreds of people, co-workers, neighbors, service workers, anyone who might have had access to Lauren's personal information. They've found nothing. Whoever is doing this is meticulous, careful, and deeply obsessed. Lauren no longer participates in Secret Santa exchanges. She doesn't celebrate Christmas at all anymore. The holiday has become synonymous with violation, with the knowledge that someone somewhere is watching her, tracking her, breaking into her homes, and collecting pieces of her life to give back to her as twisted gifts. She's learned to live with constant security measures, cameras everywhere, locks on every door and window, alarm systems. She works from home now, limiting her exposure to potential stalkers in workplace environments. She has minimal social media presence, uses aliases for most online activities, pays for everything in cash to avoid creating digital trails. But none of it has stopped the December gifts. Last year, 2023, she received a photo album, 30 pages of photographs documenting her life over the past 6 years. Her at the grocery store, her at the park, her sleeping in 4 different apartments in 4 different cities, her at job interviews, at coffee shops, at her sister's house in Chicago when she'd visited for Emma's birthday. 6 years of surveillance, carefully documented and bound in a leather album, given as a Christmas present from someone whose identity she still doesn't know. The most recent note included with the 2023 album said, "7 years now. Lucky number 7, maybe this is the year you finally figure out who I am. Or maybe I'll let you know on my own terms. Either way, I'll be watching. I'm always watching." Merry Christmas, Lauren. Lauren is 35 years old now. She's lost relationships because she can't explain the security measures she requires without revealing the stalking. And when she does reveal it, partners get scared and leave. She's lost jobs because her paranoia makes her seem unstable. She's lost most of her life to fear and hypervigilance. All because of a Secret Santa exchange. All because someone at her office, or someone connected to her office, or someone she's never consciously met, decided that she was special, decided to watch her, decided to turn Christmas into an annual reminder that she has no privacy, no safety, no escape. The case remains open. The Chicago Police Department still has a detective assigned to it, though they've made no progress in years. The FBI got involved in 2020 when Lauren's moves across state lines made it a federal case, but even with their resources, they've found nothing. Lauren's stalker is patient, careful, and has been doing this for 7 years without being caught. They know forensics well enough to leave no traceable evidence. They know technology well enough to bypass security systems. They know surveillance well enough to track Lauren across multiple cities and through name changes. And they show no signs of stopping. Every December, Lauren knows what's coming. Another gift, another violation, another reminder that someone somewhere is watching her sleep, documenting her life and treating her existence as their personal Christmas entertainment. She's written about her experience online, hoping that publicity might either scare off the stalker or help identify them. But it's done neither. The gifts continue. The stalking continues. And every year as December approaches, Lauren struggles with the knowledge that Christmas is coming. And with it, another present from the Secret Santa who's been following her for 7 years. The worst part, Lauren says, isn't the gifts themselves. It's the knowledge that this person could do more if they wanted. They clearly have access to her homes, her personal spaces. They could hurt her physically if that was their goal. But it isn't. Their goal is psychological, to make her feel watched, violated, powerless. to turn a harmless office tradition into a nightmare that's consumed her life. And they're succeeding. Story 2. The Neighborhood Exchange. The Maple Ridge subdivision in Austin, Texas was the kind of neighborhood that prided itself on community spirit. Block parties in summer, Halloween decorations that competed for most elaborate, and every December, a neighborhood-wide Secret Santa exchange that had been tradition for over 20 years. When the Morrison family, Jason, his wife Kelly, and their 10-year-old daughter Sophia, moved to Maple Ridge in August 2019, they were enthusiastic about participating in all the community traditions. The neighborhood Secret Santa worked differently than office exchanges. Instead of $20 trinkets, families exchanged homemade gifts, baked goods, or thoughtful items that showed real care and consideration. It was meant to foster neighborly bonds, to create connections between the 130 families in the subdivision. Sign up for the 2019 Secret Santa began on November 15th. The Morrisons added their names to the list enthusiastically. They were assigned the Patterson family from 3 streets over, a couple in their 60s whose kids had grown and moved away. Kelly decided to bake her famous peppermint bark and include a nice bottle of wine. Personal but not overly expensive, perfect for the neighborhood exchange. The Morrisons' Secret Santa gifts began arriving on December 1st. The first package was left on their doorstep early in the morning before they woke up. It was wrapped in festive paper with a tag that read, "From your Secret Santa, 1 of 12. Inside was a beautiful hand-carved wooden ornament, a Christmas tree with intricate detail work. It was clearly handmade by someone with real woodworking skill. Kelly hung it on their tree immediately, delighted by the craftsmanship. 12 gifts, Jason noted, reading the tag. That's generous. Most people just do 1 gift at the end. Maybe we got someone who really loves Christmas, Kelly said, smiling. I think it's sweet. The second gift arrived December 2nd. Another package on the doorstep, same festive wrapping, tag reading 2 of 12. This one contained homemade cookies, gingerbread men decorated with careful detail. They were delicious. The whole family tried them with their evening coffee and hot chocolate. Gifts 3 through 7 arrived daily, each with increasing creativity and thoughtfulness. Homemade candles, a knitted scarf in Kelly's favorite color, which was oddly specific since the Morrisons had only lived in the neighborhood a few months. A custom bookmark with Sophia's name engraved on it. A small painting of the Morrison house, remarkably accurate in every detail. Someone's been paying attention, Jason said, examining the painting on December 7th. This is our house exactly. Even got the crack in the driveway and the way the shutters hang slightly crooked. Kelly felt the first flutter of unease. How would they know Sophie's name? We haven't really socialized that much with the neighbors. And this scarf, it's exactly the shade of blue I love. That's really specific. Maybe someone asked around about us, Jason suggested. You know how neighborhoods like this are. People talk. It's probably just someone being thoughtful. But the 8th gift, arriving December 8th, made the unease sharpen into real concern. It was a photo album, bound in leather, containing photographs of the Morrison family. Not photos they'd given anyone, not photos from their social media. They were both very private and shared minimally online. These were photos taken of them without their knowledge. Photos of them moving into the house in August. Photos of Sophia waiting for the school bus. Photos of Kelly working in the garden. Photos of Jason washing his car in the driveway. Dozens of photographs, all taken from across the street or from neighboring yards, all showing the Morrisons going about their daily lives completely unaware they were being photographed. This isn't okay, Kelly said, her voice tight. This is surveillance. Someone's been watching us for months. Jason flipped through the album, his jaw clenched. Every photo was dated starting from August 17, 2019, the day they'd moved in, and continuing through December 7th, the day before. 4 months of documentation, 4 months of someone watching their family, cataloging their routines, studying their lives. "We need to figure out who our secret Santa is," Jason said. "This has crossed way over the line from thoughtful to creepy." They contacted Martha Henderson, the neighborhood association president who'd organized the Secret Santa exchange. Martha was horrified when she saw the photo album. "I don't know who has your family," Martha said, checking her list. "The assignments are supposed to be random. I used an online generator. Here, look." She showed them the spreadsheet on her computer. Next to Morrison family, the Secret Santa assignment was blank. Not filled in with a name, just empty. As if whoever had been assigned the Morrisons had deleted their own name from the digital file. "Someone hacked the spreadsheet," Martha said, her voice shaking. Or I don't know how this could happen. Every other family has an assignment listed, but yours is blank." "Can you check the edit history?" Jason asked. "See who accessed the file?" Martha checked, but the file's history showed only her own edits when she'd initially set up the assignments. If someone else had accessed it, they'd covered their tracks well. The Morrisons filed a police report that evening. The officers who responded took the photo album as evidence and made a report, but they were clear about the limitations. "Taking photos of people on their own property in public view isn't technically illegal," one officer explained. "It's invasive and creepy, absolutely. But unless there are threats or the person is trespassing on your property to take the photos, it's not a crime. However, we'll increase patrols in this neighborhood and keep an eye out for suspicious activity." The 9th gift arrived December 9th. Kelly found it on the doorstep when she went out to get the mail. She didn't open it. She called Jason at work and they opened it together that evening, both wearing gloves in case there were fingerprints. Inside was a key, a brass house key on a ring, and a note typed on plain paper. "I wanted to hand-deliver the remaining gifts. I hope you don't mind. This makes it easier." Jason tried the key in their front door. It fit perfectly. It turned the lock smoothly. Someone had made a copy of their house key and was announcing their intention to enter the Morrison home to deliver the remaining gifts. "We're changing the locks tonight," Jason said immediately. "I don't care if we have to pay for emergency service. This is insane." They called a 24-hour locksmith who arrived at 9:47 p.m. and changed all the exterior locks on the house. The locksmith confirmed that the key could have been copied from any standard key copying machine, nothing sophisticated required. Someone just needed access to one of their keys long enough to make a copy. Kelly and Jason reviewed their routines, trying to figure out when someone could have copied their key. Kelly kept her keys in her purse, which she sometimes left in her car while running into stores. Jason kept his on his belt, but he'd been in the habit of leaving them on his desk at work while he went to meetings. Either key could have been copied without them noticing. The 10th gift arrived December 10th, and this time it was inside the house. Kelly found it on the kitchen counter when she came downstairs at 6:30 a.m. Same festive wrapping, tag reading 10 of 12. But they'd changed the locks. The doors had all been locked overnight. The alarm system they'd installed 2 days earlier showed no record of any doors or windows opening. Yet the gift was there, inside their home, placed while they slept. Kelly woke Jason immediately. They checked the entire house. Sophia still sleeping safely in her room, but found no signs of forced entry, no indication of how someone had gotten inside. The 10th gift was a collection of items that had gone missing from their house over the past month. Kelly's favorite pen, which she'd assumed had been lost. A small figurine from Sophia's room that they thought had been thrown away accidentally. One of Jason's golf balls from a set in the garage, A spoon from their kitchen drawer. They'd noticed they were short one spoon but assumed it had been lost down the disposal. All of these items carefully cleaned and presented with a note. "I borrowed these. I'm sorry for taking them without asking, but I wanted to have pieces of your home with me. Now I'm returning them since I can visit whenever I want." The message was clear. Their secret Santa had been inside their house before, taking small items as souvenirs, and intended to continue visiting despite the changed locks. Jason called the police again. This time they sent a detective, someone who specialized in stalking cases. Detective Sarah Reeves examined the house thoroughly, checked all entry points, reviewed the alarm system data. "Someone very skilled is doing this," Detective Reeves said finally. "They're bypassing your alarm, getting in without leaving. Traces and clearly have been watching your family closely enough to know your routines. This is beyond typical stalking. This shows sophisticated knowledge of security systems and potentially breaking and entering skills." "What do we do?" Kelly asked, her voice breaking. "We can't stay here if someone can get in whenever they want. Our daughter isn't safe. I recommend you stay somewhere else while we investigate," Detective Reeves said. "Family or friends somewhere outside this neighborhood. We'll set up surveillance on your house, see if we can catch this person in the act." The Morrisons packed bags and went to stay with Kelly's parents across town. But they set up their own cameras inside the house. Multiple cameras with night vision, motion detection, and cloud storage so footage couldn't be deleted locally. December 11th, the cameras caught something at 2:17 a.m. A figure entering the Morrison house through the front door, using a key that shouldn't exist anymore since they'd changed the locks. The figure wore dark clothing and a ski mask, making identification impossible. They moved through the house confidently, clearly familiar with the layout, and placed a gift on the kitchen counter. Gift number 11. The figure stood in the kitchen for several minutes, looking around, touching various items. Then they went upstairs to Sophia's room, stood in the doorway for a long moment, too long, disturbingly long, before leaving the house the same way they'd entered. The police reviewed the footage, but the figure's identity remained unknown. They'd worn gloves, left no fingerprints. The key they'd used was somehow a copy of the new locks, which should have been impossible unless someone had accessed the new keys after the locksmith left. Gift number 11, opened by the police, was a child's dress, size appropriate for Sophia in a style that matched her preferences, with a note: "For Sophia's Christmas concert on December 18th, I'll be watching. She'll look beautiful." This was escalating from stalking to a direct focus on their daughter. Jason and Kelly made the decision immediately. They wouldn't return to the house. They would stay with Kelly's parents through Christmas and list the Maple Ridge house for sale as soon as possible in the new year. But the Secret Santa wasn't finished. The 12th and final gift arrived December 12th, delivered not to their house but to Kelly's parents' house across town. It appeared on the doorstep despite them not telling anyone outside of police where they were staying. The gift was a Christmas card with a family photo inside. But the photo was disturbing. It was a picture of the Morrison family, Jason, Kelly, and Sophia, that had been digitally manipulated. Standing behind them in the photo, barely visible like a ghost, was a shadowy figure. The figure had no clear features, just a human silhouette standing in the background of what should have been a family portrait. The card's message read, 12 days of Christmas, 12 gifts to show you I care. You can change locks, move houses, hide across town, it doesn't matter. I'm part of your family now. I've been watching since you arrived, and I'll keep watching wherever you go. This neighborhood is my home, and now you're part of it forever. Merry Christmas, Morrison. See you next year. The psychological impact was devastating. Kelly had a panic attack that required emergency medical care. Sophia started having nightmares about the shadow figure from the photo. Jason became obsessed with security, installing cameras and alarms everywhere, checking locks dozens of times a day. The police investigation continued through the holidays. They interviewed every resident of Maple Ridge, looked for anyone with stalking histories or security system expertise. They checked the locksmith who'd changed the Morrison's locks, but he was clean. 20 years in business, no complaints, no criminal record. The investigation found nothing concrete. Whoever was stalking the Morrison family was skilled at covering their tracks, at staying invisible despite extensive surveillance and police presence. The Morrisons never moved back to Maple Ridge. They sold the house in February 2020 and moved to a different city. But the psychological damage was done. They'd been made to feel perpetually watched, perpetually unsafe by someone who'd turned a friendly neighborhood tradition into a campaign of surveillance and terror. And the worst part was not knowing who it had been. Was it one of the friendly neighbors who'd welcomed them to Maple Ridge? The elderly couple who'd brought them cookies when they moved in? The single dad from down the street who'd helped Jason set up his lawnmower? Any of them could have been the secret Santa. Or none of them. It could have been someone who didn't even participate in the exchange officially, who'd simply used it as cover for their stalking. The Morrisons never participated in Secret Santa exchanges again. They're cautious about neighborhood events, wary of community traditions that might provide cover for unwanted attention. Sophia, now a teenager, still has anxiety about people watching her, about being photographed without permission. And every December, without fail, they receive a Christmas card. No return address, postmarked from different cities each year. Inside is always the same message. Still watching, still part of your family. Merry Christmas. The cards prove that whoever stalked them in Maple Ridge hasn't stopped, hasn't lost interest, and knows how to find them no matter where they live. The 12 days of Christmas gifts were just the beginning of a surveillance campaign that's continued for 5 years now, with no end in sight and no way to identify the person responsible. The police in multiple cities have investigated. The FBI has a file on the case. But the Secret Santa remains anonymous, hidden, and committed to making sure the Morrison family never forgets the Christmas when their neighborhood's beloved tradition revealed itself to be the perfect cover for someone with sinister intentions. Story 3. The Family Tradition. The Brennan family had celebrated Christmas the same way for 3 generations. Every year on December 20th, the extended family gathered at the original family home in Burlington, Vermont, a sprawling Victorian house that had been in the family since 1952. Part of the tradition was a family secret Santa exchange, with a twist. Gifts were always handmade, always meaningful, and always revealed a deep knowledge of the recipient. It was a tradition that required thought and effort, that created beautiful moments of connection when gifts were opened and the giver was revealed. Some years, people spent months preparing their secret Santa gifts, carving wood, painting portraits, knitting blankets, creating things that would be cherished for years. Margaret Brennan, 63 years old, was the family matriarch after her mother's passing in 2018. She maintained the family home and organized the annual gathering. In December 2020, despite COVID-19 restrictions, Margaret decided the family should still gather. They'd be careful, they'd wear masks when not eating, they'd socially distance as much as possible. But the tradition was important. The family needed it, especially after the difficult year they'd all endured. 23 family members gathered on December 20th, 2020. Margaret's children and grandchildren, her sister and brother with their families, cousins from various branches of the family tree. The Secret Santa assignments had been made in November, giving everyone time to prepare their handmade gifts. The exchange happened after dinner, everyone gathering in the large living room. The gifts were piled under the massive Christmas tree, each tagged with the recipient's name but not the giver's. That would be revealed when the gift was opened. Margaret drew the first gift, tagged with her name. She opened it carefully, appreciating the beautiful wrapping, clearly handmade paper with pressed flowers. Inside was a quilt, intricately designed, showing the Brennan family tree. Each family member was represented by a square of fabric in their favorite color with their name embroidered carefully. It was stunning, clearly the work of many hours, something that would become a family heirloom. "This is absolutely beautiful," Margaret said, tears forming in her eyes. "Who made this?" Everyone looked around, waiting for someone to claim the gift. But no one spoke up. Margaret's sister Patricia finally said, "Come on, who did this? It's gorgeous work." Still silence. Margaret checked the other gifts under the tree. 23 people meant 23 gifts, and everyone should give and receive one. She counted. 24 gifts. There was one extra. "Is someone not here who sent a gift?" Margaret asked. "Did anyone mail something?" Everyone shook their heads. All 23 family members present had brought their secret Santa gifts. The quilt was a 24th gift from someone who shouldn't exist in their exchange. Margaret examined the quilt more carefully. The family tree was accurate, showing 4 generations of Brennans, but there was one additional square, one additional name embroidered in the corner. David Brennan, 1947-1963. Margaret's blood went cold. David Brennan had been her older brother, dead for 57 years. He died at age 16 in a car accident, long before Margaret's own children were born. Most of the current generation had never even heard of him. He died before they were born, and Margaret's parents hadn't talked about him much. The loss had been too painful. "Who added David to this?" Margaret asked quietly. "Who knows about David?" Her sister Patricia came over to look at the quilt. "Oh my God, Margaret, I haven't heard that name in decades. How would anyone know about David? Mom and Dad almost never spoke about him." The room had gone quiet, everyone sensing something was wrong but not understanding what. Margaret's daughter Claire asked, "Who's David?" "My brother. Your uncle, though you never met him. He died before you were born, before I was even married." Margaret turned the quilt over, looking for any indication of who'd made it. On the back, in tiny embroidered letters, was a message. "From your big brother. I've been watching the family grow. I'm so proud of everyone. Merry Christmas." The message was signed with a simple D. "This is someone's idea of a sick joke," Patricia said, her voice shaking with anger. "Who would do this? Who would pretend to be David?" But everyone in the room denied any knowledge of the quilt, and the craftsmanship was genuine. This wasn't something made quickly as a prank. Someone had spent hundreds of hours creating this detailed family tree, had researched the family thoroughly enough to get everyone's favorite colors correct, and had somehow obtained information about David Brennan that wasn't readily available. Margaret's son Thomas, the most practical of her children, suggested, "Maybe someone found old family records. Maybe there's information about David in the house somewhere and someone used it for their gift but wanted to remain anonymous." It was a reasonable explanation, but it didn't feel right to Margaret. Something about the quilt disturbed her on a deep level, beyond just the inclusion of her long-dead brother. The way the message was worded, "I've been watching the family grow," suggested it was from David himself, not just about David. They continued with the secret Santa exchange, everyone opening their gifts with less enthusiasm now, the mood dampened by the mysterious quilt. Each gift was beautiful and handmade as tradition required. Each gift was claimed by a family member who'd made it. By the end, everyone had given and received one gift. Plus, Margaret had the mysterious quilt. That night, after everyone had gone to bed in various rooms throughout the large house, Margaret couldn't sleep. She lay in her bedroom, the same bedroom she'd slept in as a child, thinking about David. She hadn't thought about her brother in years. The pain of his death had faded to a dull background ache, something she'd learned to live with. At 2:14 a.m., Margaret heard sounds from downstairs. Footsteps, creaking floorboards, the unmistakable sound of someone moving through the house. She got up quietly, grabbed her phone for light, and went to investigate. The living room was dark except for the Christmas tree lights, which were on despite Margaret being certain she'd turned them off before bed. And standing in front of the tree was a figure. A young man, maybe 16 years old, wearing clothes from the 1960s, a Letterman jacket, jeans cuffed at the bottom, Converse sneakers. Margaret's heart stopped. She recognized him from old photographs. The shape of his face, the way he stood, the dark hair that fell across his forehead exactly like their father's had. "David?" she whispered. The figure turned to look at her. His face was exactly as she remembered from childhood, though she'd only been 7 when he died. He smiled, that same crooked smile she remembered, and spoke in a voice that shouldn't exist. "Hey, Maggie, it's been a long time." Margaret wanted to scream, wanted to run, wanted to do anything except stand there frozen. But her voice wouldn't work. Her legs wouldn't move. She just stared at her dead brother standing in the living room as if 57 years hadn't passed, as if he hadn't died in 1963. "I know this is scary," David said gently. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to frighten you. But I've been here, Maggie. I've always been here. This house. I died before I could really leave it, you know. Part of me stayed. And I've been watching the family grow, watching everyone celebrate Christmas the way we used to. I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to give a gift, too." "You're not real," Margaret managed to say. "You're dead. You've been dead for 57 years. "I am dead," David agreed. "But I'm also here. I don't really understand it myself. I just know that after the accident, I woke up back in the house and nobody could see me or hear me. I watched Mom and Dad grieve. I watched you grow up, Maggie. Watched you get married, have kids, have grandkids. I've been at every Christmas gathering. I've been part of the family, even though nobody knew." Margaret's phone slipped from her shaking hands, clattering on the hardwood floor. The sound seemed to break some spell, and suddenly other family members were there. Thomas coming down the stairs, Claire emerging from the den, Patricia from the guest room. They all stopped when they saw the figure by the Christmas tree. "Who the hell is that?" Thomas demanded, moving protectively in front of his mother. But as he spoke, the figure began to fade. David looked sad, disappointed. "I just wanted to be included," he said, his voice growing fainter. "I just wanted to give everyone a gift to show you I'm still here, still part of the family, but I guess that was wrong. I guess I should have stayed hidden like always." "Wait," Margaret said, finding her voice. "David, if it's really you..." But he was gone, vanished completely as if he'd never been there. The living room was empty except for the family members, all in their pajamas, all staring at the space where a teenage boy had been standing moments before. "What was that?" Claire asked, her voice high with panic. "Mom, who was that? Why did he look like he was from the 1960s? Margaret sat down heavily on the couch. "That was David, your uncle. He said he's been here all along in the house, watching the family." Thomas immediately tried to rationalize. It was a trick. Someone playing a prank. Maybe they hid in the house earlier, dressed up in vintage clothes, broke in to mess with us. But Patricia shook her head slowly. "Tom, I haven't thought about David in decades. I've certainly never shown anyone photos of him. How would anyone know what he looked like? And that face, that was exactly David, exactly as he looked the last time I saw him, right before the accident." They searched the house thoroughly, checking every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. They found no one. The doors were all locked from the inside. The alarm system, installed in the 1990s, showed no record of being disarmed or triggered. The next morning, Margaret went to the attic, something she hadn't done in years. She dug through old boxes until she found what she was looking for. a photo album from 1963. Pictures of David, their family, life before the accident. She brought the album downstairs and compared the photos to everyone's memories of the figure from the night before. The resemblance was exact. Same face, same build, same clothing style. Even the Letterman jacket matched one in the photos. David had been on the high school baseball team. "He's been here," Margaret said quietly, looking through the photos. "All these years David's been here in the house, and we never knew." Claire, who was 29 and had grown up in the age of paranormal TV shows and ghost hunting, suggested they try to communicate. "If Uncle David is really here, if he's been watching the family, maybe we can talk to him. Maybe he has unfinished business." They set up cameras, recorders, and various other equipment that night. Margaret sat in the living room and spoke aloud, addressing her dead brother. "David, if you're here, I want you to know something. I missed you. We all missed you. When you died, it broke Mom and Dad. It broke all of us. But I don't think you being here, stuck in this house for 57 years, is right. You should be at peace. You should have moved on." No response, no apparition, just silence. But the next morning, December 22nd, Margaret found new gifts under the tree. Not wrapped, just placed carefully. There were 22 of them, one for each family member except Margaret, who'd already received the quilt. Each gift was handmade, clearly crafted with care and deep knowledge of the recipient. Thomas received a hand-carved baseball bat with his name engraved on it. Thomas coached Little League. Claire received a painting of her apartment in Boston, accurate in every detail despite David never having seen it in life. Patricia's gift was a photo album filled with pictures of her and David as children, photos that should have been lost decades ago but were somehow preserved, duplicated, and presented. Every gift showed intimate knowledge of the recipient's life, interests, and personality. Knowledge that only a family member who'd been watching closely for years could have. The family was divided about what to do. Some wanted to leave the house, never return, sell the property, and end whatever haunting was occurring. Others, particularly Margaret, felt a strange obligation to David. He'd been watching over the family for more than half a century. He'd never harmed anyone. He just wanted to be included. They held a family meeting on December 23rd, all 23 members present, and Margaret made a decision. "David, if you're listening, I want you to know you're part of this family. You always have been. You don't have to hide anymore. You don't have to only appear at night when you think no one will see. You're a Brennan. You're my brother. You're everyone's uncle, even if they never met you in life." She set a place for him at the Christmas Eve dinner table, an empty chair with a place setting right next to her own seat. "This is for David," she announced. "He's been part of our Christmas gatherings for 57 years. It's time we acknowledged him." Some family members thought she'd lost her mind. Others were moved by the gesture. But everyone agreed to go along with it, whether out of respect for Margaret or curiosity about what might happen. Christmas Eve 2020, the Brennan family gathered for their traditional dinner. 23 people at the long table, plus one empty chair for David. Margaret said grace, and at the end she added, "And we're grateful for David, who's watched over this family and kept the Christmas spirit alive in this house for so many years." The room went silent. Then in the empty chair there was a shimmer in the air. Not quite visible, not quite invisible. More like a presence, an acknowledgement, a sense of someone being there even if they couldn't be fully seen. Throughout the meal, things happened that couldn't be easily explained. The food on David's plate would occasionally disappear as if being eaten by someone invisible. His water glass would tilt and empty. And several family members reported feeling a hand on their shoulder, a gentle touch, like someone was walking around the table greeting everyone. After dinner, they gathered in the living room for the final part of their Christmas tradition, sharing memories of past Christmases. And this year, for the first time, people shared memories of David. Patricia talked about Christmas 1962, the last one with David alive. Margaret shared stories from childhood, and Thomas, emboldened by something he couldn't explain, talked about the uncle he'd never met but somehow felt he knew. As midnight approached, the shimmer in the air became more visible. David appeared briefly, solidly enough that everyone could see him clearly. He was smiling, tears running down his translucent face. "Thank you," he said, his voice clear and strong. "Thank you for including me, for remembering me, for making me part of the family again." Then he faded, but differently than before. This time it felt like a departure rather than a disappearance. Like he was finally leaving, finally able to move on. After being held in place by grief and loneliness for 57 years. The house felt different after that night. Quieter, emptier. Margaret continued to live there and the family continued to gather for Christmas, but David never appeared again. No more mysterious gifts, no more apparitions in the night. Margaret believes that acknowledging him, including him in the family tradition one final time, gave David what he needed to finally rest. He'd spent decades watching the family celebrate without him, creating gifts he could never give, being present but unseen. The Secret Santa quilt had been his attempt to finally be part of the celebration, to show his love for the family even from beyond death. The Brennan family still has the quilt. It hangs in the living room of the family home, a reminder of the uncle who watched over them for generations. And every Christmas, they still set an empty chair at the table. Not because they expect David to appear, but because he's part of the family. He always was, even when they couldn't see him. Some Secret Santa gifts reveal the giver's identity. David's gift revealed something much more profound, that love and connection can transcend death, that family bonds persist even when separated by decades and the barrier between life and death, and that sometimes the most meaningful gift is simply acknowledgement and inclusion. Story 4. The Corporate Party. Heather Walsh had worked at Dataflow Systems, a software company in Denver, Colorado, for 4 years. The company had approximately 200 employees, and every December, they held an elaborate Christmas party at an upscale hotel. Part of the party was a Secret Santa exchange, but corporate-style $50 limit, gifts exchanged at the party. Mandatory participation as part of team building. Heather had always found the mandatory Secret Santa annoying. She didn't know most of her coworkers well enough to choose meaningful gifts, and receiving random items from people she barely knew felt awkward rather than festive. But company culture demanded participation, so every year she complied, buying generic gift cards or wine bottles that could work for anyone. December 2016, Heather drew a name from the Secret Santa pool during the sign-up. Marcus Reeves from the IT department. She'd never spoken to Marcus, didn't know anything about him beyond his name and department. She bought him a Starbucks gift card and a desk calendar, wrapped them in generic Christmas paper, and marked his name on the tag. The corporate Christmas party was December 17th, held at the Millennium Hotel downtown. 200 employees in cocktail attire, open bar, catered dinner, live music. The Secret Santa exchange happened after dinner. Gifts distributed from a massive pile that had been accumulating on a designated table throughout the evening. Heather received her gift at 8:43 p.m. A medium-sized box wrapped immaculately in silver paper with a perfect bow. The tag read "For Heather," but had no indication of who it was from. That was standard for Secret Santa. She opened it at her table, surrounded by co-workers from her department. Inside was a leather journal, expensive and beautiful. But when she opened the journal, her smile froze. The pages weren't blank. They were filled with writing. Specifically, they were filled with entries about her. Hundreds of entries dating back 4 years documenting her life in disturbing detail. August 17, 2012. Heather started at Dataflow today. She wore a blue dress, looked nervous during orientation. She'll fit in well here. October 3, 2012. Heather brought lunch from home today. Turkey sandwich, apple, yogurt. She ate alone in the break room. I wish I could join her. February 14, 2013. Heather received flowers from her boyfriend. She seemed happy but also embarrassed to have them delivered to the office. The boyfriend's name is Ryan Novak. I looked him up. He works at First National Bank downtown. Entry after entry covering 4 years of Heather's life at Dataflow. What she wore each day, what she ate, who she talked to, when she left for the day. Her moods, her health, her relationships, everything documented in meticulous detail by someone who'd been watching her every single day since she started working there. Heather's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. Her coworker Jessica noticed her reaction. "Heather? What's wrong? What is that?" Heather couldn't speak. She just handed the journal to Jessica, who read several pages before going pale. "Oh my God. Heather, this is... Who gave you this? This is stalking." "I don't know. It's Secret Santa. It could be anyone." They checked the gift tag again, but it gave no clues. The wrapping paper was identical to several other gifts, clearly bulk bought from the same store. There were no fingerprints visible on the smooth leather cover. Nothing to indicate who had given it. Heather looked around the ballroom at 200 co-workers in festive attire, laughing and drinking and celebrating. Any one of them could be her Secret Santa. Any one of them could have been watching her for 4 years, documenting her daily life, creating this horrifying journal. She went to find her supervisor, Sharon, and showed her the journal. Sharon's expression went from confusion to horror as she read the entries. "We need to report this immediately. This is workplace harassment at minimum, possibly criminal stalking. Come with me." They found Robert Chen, the VP of Human Resources, and explained the situation. Robert examined the journal, his expression darkening with each page he read. "This is completely unacceptable. We need to identify who gave this gift. I want everyone who participated in Secret Santa to stay. We're going to figure out who did this tonight." An announcement was made. The party was being suspended. No one was allowed to leave until the Secret Santa situation was resolved. There was confusion, some anger from people who didn't understand what was happening. But Robert was firm. This was a serious matter and they would get to the bottom of it. The Secret Santa sign-up list was checked. Heather's name appeared as a recipient, but the giver's name next to her assignment was marked as anonymous. That shouldn't have been possible. The HR system required everyone to identify themselves when they signed up. "Someone hacked the system," Robert said, "or had access to modify the records. We're going to need IT to review the logs, see who accessed this file." The IT department was summoned, including Marcus Reeves, ironically the person Heather had been assigned to give a gift to. They examined the Secret Santa database, checking access logs and modification history. After 30 minutes of analysis, they had an answer. The file had been modified from an admin-level account. The modification timestamp was December 15th, 2 days before the party. The admin account belonged to Patricia Simmons, the executive assistant to the CEO. Patricia was called to answer questions. She was 62 years old, had been with Dataflow since its founding 15 years earlier, was universally respected and trusted. She seemed genuinely confused by the accusation. "I didn't modify any Secret Santa files," Patricia insisted. "I barely participated. I drew a name and bought a generic gift basket. I don't even know Heather Walsh." "But the modification came from your account," Robert said, showing her the logs. Patricia examined the data, then her face went pale. "My computer. I left it unlocked on December 15th. I went to a doctor's appointment, was gone for 3 hours. Anyone could have used my computer during that time. Security footage from the executive floor was reviewed. Between 2:15 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. on December 15th, while Patricia was at her appointment, 17 different people had entered the executive suite for various reasons. Any of them could have used her computer to modify the Secret Santa file. The investigation was going nowhere. 200 suspects, no physical evidence, no way to identify who'd created the journal. Heather made a decision. She stood up in front of the assembled employees and spoke, her voice shaking but determined. Someone in this room has been watching me for 4 years. Someone documented my life in this journal and gave it to me as a Secret Santa gift. I don't know why you did this. I don't know what you wanted to accomplish, but you need to understand that what you've done is criminal. It's stalking. It's harassment. And I want you to know that I'm not scared, I'm angry. You violated my privacy, my sense of safety, my trust in this workplace. So here's what's going to happen. I'm filing a police report tonight. I'm pressing charges, and I'm going to dedicate every resource I have to figuring out who you are. The room was silent. 200 people, any of whom could be the stalker, all watching Heather deliver her statement. If you turn yourself in now, Heather continued, if you come forward and explain yourself, maybe there's a path forward that doesn't involve prosecution. But if you stay hidden, if you make me hunt you down, I promise you'll regret it. She waited. 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. No one came forward. Police arrived at 11:47 p.m. and took Heather's statement. They collected the journal as evidence, photographed the gift wrapping, interviewed witnesses. But with 200 potential suspects and no physical evidence, the detective in charge was honest about the odds. Unless someone comes forward or we get lucky with forensics, this is going to be very difficult to solve, Detective Martinez told Heather. The entries in the journal don't contain any information that reveals the writer's identity. They're observations anyone in your workplace could have made. We'll do everything we can, but you should prepare for the possibility that we might not identify your stalker. Heather quit Dataflow Systems the following week. She couldn't work there anymore, couldn't walk through the office knowing that her stalker was somewhere among her co-workers. Every interaction became suspect. Every friendly conversation could be with the person who'd been documenting her life for 4 years. The police investigation continued for 6 months with no results. The journal was analyzed by forensic document examiners who determined the handwriting was deliberately disguised, making identification impossible. No fingerprints were found beyond Heather's own. The paper and leather were common brands available at any office supply store. Dataflow Systems implemented new policies about workplace harassment and surveillance, but they never identified Heather's stalker. The person remained hidden among the 200 employees, protected by anonymity and careful planning. Heather moved to a different city, took a job at a smaller company where she knew everyone personally. She became hyper-aware of her surroundings, cautious about what she shared at work, protective of her privacy in ways she'd never been before. But the worst part wasn't the initial violation. It was the ongoing uncertainty. Because the journal entries had stopped at December 17, 2016, the day of the party. But Heather had no way of knowing if that meant the stalker had stopped watching or if they'd simply stopped documenting. Did they continue to observe her in her new city and her new job? Or had giving her the journal been the end of their obsession? She never found out. No new journals appeared. No evidence of continued stalking emerged. But Heather lived with the knowledge that for 4 years, someone had watched her daily life with obsessive attention, recording her routines and habits, studying her like a specimen. And that person was still out there somewhere. Identity unknown and unpunished. The Secret Santa tradition at Dataflow Systems was discontinued after 2016. Too many employees were uncomfortable with the anonymity, with the possibility that their gift giver might be someone with sinister intentions. The corporate Christmas party became a simpler affair. Dinner and drinks, no gift exchange, no mandatory participation. But for Heather, the damage was permanent. She never participated in Secret Santa exchanges again, regardless of setting. The idea of receiving an anonymous gift filled her with dread rather than excitement, because she'd learned that anonymity could hide dangerous obsession, that holiday traditions could provide perfect cover for stalking, and that sometimes the person watching you most carefully is the one you'd never suspect. The journal is still in police evidence storage, case number 2016-47893, officially classified as unsolved. 4 years of Heather Walsh's life, documented by an unknown observer, wrapped in silver paper and given as a Christmas present. A gift that destroyed her sense of safety and taught her that sometimes the most dangerous secrets are the ones hidden behind holiday traditions and friendly smiles.